Hello and welcome to 3-Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's their time and bandwidth. Today's game is QuByte Beat 'em Up Archives. QuByte strikes again with 2 ports, this time of long-forgotten beat-em-ups. Did they grab winners this time, or should we be wary? Let's find out. Beat 'em Up Archives, QuByte Classics, is a collection of 2 beat-em-ups from late in the Super Nintendo's life cycle. Both released by Pico originally, but they took the by Pico out of the title this time because they probably realized it was a giant mouthful. Anyway, let's talk about them. Legend is a 1994 medieval brawler that very much was inspired by Golden Axe, all the way down to aping the identical magic system where potions can be burned for a screen clear. You play as 2 beefy boys, no dwarf sadly, who traverse what feels like a generic 80s fantasy movie beating a crap out of everything. Each stage has 2 bosses, and the game is insanely slow unless you turn on the turbo mode, and then it feels like, an actual game. I will say I did like that continues drop you at checkpoints rather than restarting the level, and the big chunky sprites and backgrounds are charming. Also, you can block, which is novel for this kind of game, and makes the bosses considerably more strategic. The second game, Iron Commando, released in 1995, and this one I'd actually heard of, as it apparently got released on the Evercade. This one's very much in the vein of Capcom's Final Fight, with you traversing the streets beating everybody half to death, and boy does this game love to spawn tons of enemies for you to punch. What's entertaining is the insane number of weapons you get. Guns drop all the time, as do melee weapons among other things, leading to some hilarious carnage. Also, they call an obvious shotgun a riffle when you pick it up, which is just charming. This one is pretty hard though, at least compared to Legend, and its checkpoints are far less generous. I'll admit I could not beat the first level solo, even on easy, but with 2 players it was a much more enjoyable experience, even more so than Legend. Both of these games come unaltered, but you can change some settings in the in-game menu. The only other thing this includes is QuByte's usual lame wrapper that at least gives you multiple save states, and that's it. And really, that's these 2 games. Late-era Super Nintendo brawlers that ape off better games, but at least seem to have a varying level of complexity. So what do I like about the QuByte Beat 'em Up Archives? Well, both these games are actually pretty fun in co-op, with Iron Commando being more fun just because of its insane enemy count and tons of weapons. Additionally, I really dug Legend's visual style. I am nostalgic and probably crazy, I know, but it gave me the vibe of a B-tier 80s fantasy movie like Willow or something, and that really clicked for me. Plus, I love the Mode 7 map. And lastly, the fact they call a shotgun a riffle is so funny, I'm giving it its own plus. There was a magical moment when my partner and I, while playing, realized that it says the weapons names, which the rest are also wrong by the way, when you pick up a gun, and discovering riffle led to some solid laughs. Thanks, Iron Commando, and God bless your awful translation. When it comes to the bad, both these games do have issues. Legend gets monotonous pretty fast, unfortunately, with its levels being too long and enemies recycled. The game, as mentioned, is also really slow if you don't turn turbo mode on, which is nice, but turbo does make bosses way harder. Additionally, Iron Commando spawns so many enemies that with just 1 person, it's almost impossible to beat. It also has bosses that are really frustrating with health bars that should be half as long as they are, so if you're going to play this one, make sure you have a friend or don't bother. And lastly, once again, whatever QuByte uses to emulate these games results in noticeable input lag, and the UI continues to be a slow, cumbersome, frustrating mess. And there's no bonus content whatsoever. This is 2 ROMs and a wrapper. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale, must play, maybe consider, and don't bother. So the main issue I have with this collection is it requires 2 players to be any fun at all, and the emulation and input lag here is really unfortunate. However, and here's the turn, compared to other QuByte releases, I actually had a decent amount of fun with these 2. Iron Commando with a friend is silly and fast-paced carnage, and Legend's aesthetic was really my jam. Despite that, I don't really think I can recommend this unless you get it super cheap, and only if you're absolutely certain you know what you're getting into. Also, QuByte, fix your damn emulator and wrapper. Holy crap, dude. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have you heard of the QuByte Beat 'em Up Archives? Have you heard of any of these QuByte games? Why am I reviewing this when nobody cares? Well, let me know regardless, and then go out there and maybe pick this up, but only if you have a friend.